Hello and welcome to the Black Ops 2 Revolution DLC pack. This is an extended play for Videogamer.com. My name is Matt Lees and we are playing a bit of Call of Duty. So this is one of the first new maps. We are looking at Grind, which is kind of very much inspired on skate parks. I'm willing to bet that somewhere in this level there must be some sort of Tony Hawk-based Easter egg. If there isn't, then Activision have seriously missed the trick. But yeah, it's kind of a very open level with a mixture of kind of outdoor and interior kind of setups. Even the interior setups are like quite medium-sized. It's not as kind of tight as some of the other levels we've seen. And again, we've got lots of opportunities for kind of sniping spots using the verticality of the ramps, vertical ramps and all that. And of course, a bit of comedy action with the kind of wavy arm man that you commonly see in American TV shows, or if you live in America, in America. Look at him, wavy arm man wobbling around. They are the go-to comedy device for all American things. So yeah, a lot of half pipes. Obviously, you can't do any skateboarding or any sweet tricks in this, but you can jump off a ledge and do a 180. And you know, it's a nice little spots actually. This seems to be a favourite here in terms of like the sniping areas. We were playing a lot last night, and people keep using these as the kind of go-to snipe spots. The second of the new maps is Downhill, set in the French Alps. It's got a wonderfully kind of snowy vibe. It's very much reminds me of Skyrim actually, but I think that's just the level of detail they've gone to in the rocks, which look, to be blunt, pretty bloody lovely. You've also got these ski lifts that fly around. You can't get in them, but it is possible if you're not careful. You can kind of use the connection area where they launch off. It's kind of a nice sniping spot, but if you're not careful, if you get crushed against the edge of an invisible wall, then you do die. So there's kind of a nice little mechanic there with the movement. Skidoos, obviously, you can't use them, unfortunately. This level reminds me a lot of Express, actually, just in terms of the art style and the direction. It's got a nice bit of colour in it. I know it seems dim to just, talk about colour when you're kind of looking at new multiplayer maps, but Call of Duty does have a reputation for being kind of quite grey and brown, and it is nice to see a bit of variation with that, especially in terms of learning the levels. It's a lot easier when you have kind of flashes of colour in different areas to work out which zone you're in, what direction you're facing and stuff like that. You'll also notice that we are using the Peacekeeper, which is basically the new weapon that comes with this. Some might say it's a controversial move with a DLC pack. It's the first time I think they've had a new weapon added as part of the DLC with the maps. But it's an SMG that kind of feels slightly more like an assault rifle, maybe. So it's a halfway house between the two kind of genres of gun, if you will. It's going to be likely it's very popular, to be honest, just because the fact that SMGs and assault rifles tend to be some of the more popular guns. SMGs especially, people love running around with a laser sight here, which means obviously we've got the kind of better hip fire accuracy. It's a very, very popular tactic in Black Ops 2. But having that long range, it makes a big difference as well. Obviously, we're playing pretty badly here, but it's quite early in the morning, so give us a break. Yeah, this is a nice map actually. It's probably one of my favourites visually of the new bunch, and it seems to have a nice combination of kind of like some tight, cozy indoor sections and some really nice expanses for a bit of sniping. Here you'll see actually, yeah, this whole area is a nice area to get locked down if you can, but from so many approaches, it's difficult to kind of maintain it for too long. I'd say out of all of the new maps, this one's most likely to be kind of a bit of a classic. In fact, it's got the classic Treyarch charm of stuff like comedy snowmen and a lot of detail in terms of like the skis and the lighting everywhere. But also it has that nice Call of Duty classic blend of having the really tight edges of interior areas and the kind of really clean, crisp, hard lines, but then also you've got the outdoor areas with the kind of more organic kind of edges. It's kind of perfect for sneaking and sniping around and just generally being a bit more skulky and dangerous. It feels very reminiscent of what Call of Duty maps should be like, and I think largely it is possibly a stronger map than Grind. The overall landscape of the map as well gives it a kind of slightly vertical edge where you've got like some slopes and some hills and some slightly raised sniping points, as you can see here. But again, it's a nice continuation of one of the major changes they've included with Black Ops 2 is the fact that in Modern Warfare 3 and some of the earlier Call of Duty games, you had the ability to kind of like climb up to silly points and get sniping advantage points, which weren't really fair if you're a new player. And a lot of really pro people would be able to get into locations where you'd be getting sniped from people you couldn't even work out where from. Whereas this does maintain that kind of, nice bit of assisted suicide there. But you can maintain this kind of height difference and you can have nice spots, but it's not too hard to learn the maps and you kind of quickly can work out where the snipers are likely to be. Kind of keeps the level field, keeps a level field for a longer period than you would imagine it would. Possibly the weakest link in the latest map pack is Hydro, which is this kind of mountainside dam level, which actually I really think reminds me an awful lot of a dam level from James Bond Bloodzone, which was also an Activision game that came out 2 or 3 years ago. It's not an appalling map by any means, but it just lacks that sheen. A lot of the reason that people love Call of Duty, and I love Call of Duty, is that it really manages to squeeze the most out of the current gen and make levels that look stunning and make things that look beautiful. The interior parts of this map I think are really nice. It's still got that kind of high-end techno feel that some of the earlier missions in the main campaign have before the campaign becomes disastrously bad. But the outdoor areas just feel very bland. It's a lot of kind of big chunky textures, and when you look at the mountains in the backdrop, they look really ugly. I mean, it's a cliche to say N64 style, but honestly we're not far off here. Someone's put a lot of detail into that big bridge in the background, but the rest of the backdrop in the skybox is kind of weak. It's not a terrible map though, actually, functionally. I mean, it's got a lot of long range, and I think it's going to be a favourite for snipers. Thankfully, they put stuff like that transit van in the way to just ensure that it doesn't become a ridiculous scope fest. But there is a lot of range here, and as you can see, we are struggling with our Peacekeeper now. Just kind of on this map, it's more suited to a kind of an accurate long range weapon. Again, though, I mean, in the interior details, there are some lovely details on the wall. We've got the coats, coat racks, hangers, little things that bring it to life. I mean, you got to say that with Call of Duty map packs, you're paying a lot of money for these things. I mean, obviously, you only get 4 new maps in the pack. You do get some additions to the zombies, which will, it's not a massive deal, actually. I mean, I'd say that the zombies was probably the weakest part of Black Ops 2, apart from the campaign, obviously. But really, let's be honest, you are paying for 4 new multiplayer maps, and you're paying, a decent whack for them. So, having this level of detail and having this level of love that's gone into the maps, in addition to them being kind of technically and mechanically strong, I think it's really important. Otherwise, they've got to knock the price down a bit, frankly. Hydro isn't a disaster by any means, but overall I'd say it is a bit of a failure. It just doesn't impress us in the same way that the other maps do. And I think that actually, in a way, Treyarch have made a rod for their own back in this department, because whilst the Call of Duty map packs are very expensive, Treyarch deliver. They've done a really good job on the map design. I think the map design and multiplayer design in Black Ops 2 is some of the strongest that we've seen in Call of Duty for a very long time. And I think that this map, although I must admit I do really like that bit. I like the bit with the water where it goes off the edge. That's lovely. So there's some nice thematic ideas in this, but overall I just think the art style and the execution of that is just a little bit on the weak side. Another favourite of the new selection is Mirage, which is this kind of wonderfully dusty, deserty land with an oriental vibe. Good use, again, it's a bit similar to the snow. There's obviously been some sort of massive sandstorm here because everything is knee-deep in sand. Either that or some kids have been going mental trying to make sandcastles, and they really need to get grounded for a substantial amount of time. I'm not sure where this is set exactly. Maybe Shanghai? I mean, I could probably see on the menu, actually, if I just have to press start and have a look. It's in the Gobi Desert, China. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mess with all the sand and stuff. Somebody needs to kind of come in with a hoover, get the Dyson on this job. But as a map, it's pretty nice. Obviously, you can see the use of sand as hills lets people get up and down the roofs quite easily in some locations, and just generally kind of gives a kind of flow to the map. So it's a nice kind of mixture of the kind of outdoor, more natural style of map with the kind of loose edges and great for kind of sneaking around, but combined with the hard edges of the classic interior stuff, quite literally in the fact that they've just filled the buildings with sand, but especially the way that you don't have to climb through windows. You can just run through them because often there are ramps, and it's an interesting use of kind of taking the idea of using stuff for cover and making it a bit more natural. Like, as you saw earlier, there was that kind of ramp of sand, and you can actually go prone and kind of like hide behind that, even though it's hiding behind a van on one side, but it's only about 2 feet of cover. It's an interesting map, and it's interesting thematically as well. Like, it's one of those maps where they've actually clearly put a bit of thought into it, and it's nice. Also, it's really pretty. Again, nice bit of colour. Treyarch have a really good knack for actually making use of a color palette. You know, you've got some golds, you've got some red, you've got some fantastic design in terms of the statues. I mean, this is what I'm talking about with the map packs. You know, if you're going to be paying out the nose for these things, you want things that look nice. You want things that look special. This is a really cool map. You know, a lot of the maps that came with Black Ops 2 were really, really strong. This map is, you know, you could have included this with a full game and it would have been equally strong. So, I mean, overall with the map packs, as I say, there is one dud. I think Hydro is a bit weak. I don't know why. It just feels like it lacks the polish that makes Call of Duty, you know, the champion it is. But other than that, you get 3 really good maps. We haven't had time to cover the zombie stuff in here in much detail, but yeah, I mean, the zombie stuff is slightly weak. Again, if you enjoy the main stuff in the zombies in the main game, then you'll probably enjoy this. I think it's all a little on the weak side, but really the meat of the pudding here and what you're paying for is these multiplayer maps. Obviously, if you're fed up with Call of Duty, this isn't going to drag you back in. But, you know, if you still fancy a little bit more, then these maps are a strong offering. A bit on the pricey side, but, you know, a lot of love and detail's gone into these maps, and they are good maps, and they'll keep you happy for a decent amount of time. So that's the end of this extended play. Thank you very much for joining us, and obviously we have loads more extended plays and loads more video stuff on videogamer.com.
Hostile hunter-killer drone inbound.